man, you're doing the God is good thing. It's great, man. Hey, Throwback Sunday. I like that. Nah, man, Philip, you're just a really cool guy, man. Thank you so much for your unapologetic heart for the King, man. Can I move this stuff a little bit? Move stuff around. We gotta make. We're talking about the King, but I gotta make way for the Queen. Yeah. Sweet. This is cool. For the visual back for the people at home. Let me get that. There you go. There's my wife. Hello. Yay. Hooray. All right. So kids, get out of here. Get out of here. This is grown folk talk today, man. I'm telling you. If you don't know what we're talking about today, we're talking to. Hey, you guys want to stay? I'll give you the option. We've been going through the Old Testament. Quincy's like, peace. You don't have to tell me. I don't want to hear about it. I hear you talking enough. We've been going through the Old Testament and going through one book at a time. And so we talked about the first 5 books, which is the law, and the next bundle of books, which is history. And now we're in poetry. Okay, and so we've been talking about, we're going to close out poetry. So if anybody knows the last poetic book of the wisdom and poetry genre of the Old Testament, does anyone know what book that is for us? Song of Solomon. Yeah, get out of here, kids. Right? This book is explicit, man. This book is all about love and the love that God created. So it's funny too, because we had a great speaker, a guest last week. Kevin Nickerson was so fun. I was so glad that he came and hung out with us. And he was like, well, where are you? Like, what are you preaching about? I said, we're Old Testament. Who's got next is our theme for the year. We're focusing on pouring into the younger generations. We're focused on, pouring into people who we can help grow closer to Jesus, to raise up the next generations, right? But I told him we're in Song of Solomon, and I said I was really kind of excited to preach on it, and I assumed that wouldn't be something a guest speaker would be excited to come in and preach about, right? He was like, nah, you're good. I'm gonna let you have that one. You can go ahead and take Song of Solomon. And so I was excited to preach about it, and then God was like, nah, man, I think you let's just have a conversation about this book, and we'll teach a few things. We'll look at a few scriptures, and I'm going to invite you into a conversation with my bride, and I'm trying to make this as authentic as possible for us. This looks good. This is good, right? Looking at the screen, looking at your beauty. So a few words before we kind of get into our dialogue. And here's the thing. This is my wife, Simi. If you didn't know, Simeona, or Simi for short. Yes. She's the bomb woman. And we have these amazing conversations. We usually like to get a latte. And whether we're at a coffee shop or just at home having coffee, we have great conversations. So I tried to set this up. We have 2 chairs in our office, and they sit kind of at this angle. So I'm going to share with you about Song of Solomon a little bit, but then we're just going to have a conversation. And I'm prayerful that it can be as authentic as possible, and that you guys can kind of be a fly on the wall of what goes on in these sacred spaces. I'm really like, man, sometimes I'm like, man, we should have a podcast, but it's like, but this is so sacred what happens, and it's so transformative, and it's so honest. And so I'm prayerful that we can just offer you a little bit of that, and it will be edifying and just really good for you guys. So real quick, just some context on Song of Solomon. Cesar, can you grab my Bible and journal right there, bro? Sorry, dude. Might as well grab those announcements too when you get a chance also. Just in case. Yeah, thank you, bro. Appreciate you, man. So if you were to open to the first open to Song of Solomon. We're Bible readers here, man. So I hope if you're gonna come hang out with us, you're like, no shame if you don't bring your Bible. No shame if you don't know how to find these books in the Bible. But the only way we learn is by doing it and sitting through those uncomfortable moments of trying not to be the last person to get there and using your table of contents and all that stuff. So Song of Solomon. If you can find Psalms, then you just keep flipping to your right till you get through Proverbs and Ecclesiastes and Song of Solomon. There's another name for the book of Song of Solomon. Does anyone know what that it's also referred to as sometimes? Song of Songs. And for years, I thought, like, man, that's a weird name. Like, why would you call it Song of Songs? Like, Solomon appears to be the author. Why isn't it Song of Solomon? It's Solomon's song. Well, there's debates on if he is the author or if it's even his voice. And part of that is because Solomon is not really like the poster child for godly marital bliss, because he had like 700 wives. Right? So it seems a little odd that he would be like the main spokesman. But regardless, he had something to do with either penning this collection of poems or it was a part of his collection that he had brought together of poetic literature. Okay? But the first verse says, the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. Okay? And I'm actually okay with calling it Song of Songs now. Well, one, the Bible says it's the Song of Songs. And now I've been getting understanding of what that means. I grew up somebody who loves like R&B. I'm an R&B guy, okay? Especially 90s R&B. Like that somehow taught me to be the guy that you get. So like one of the ways we like to spend our what's one of our favorite ways to spend date night, babe?
Man, you become putting me on
the spot. You're good. I'm going to tell him if you don't tell him the right answer, but
I don't know whether
what's one of my favorite ways to spend date night? Not like the grand finale, but just like the
I don't know.
Come on, man. We just like to turn on some old school R&B. You know how
that's the best date night. Though.
Yeah.
Did you? But because we have date night a lot, but that's like the best date night when we have the music and the
that's what
fire
I'm saying.
and
We would maybe do a little fire on the patio.
Yeah.
Glass of wine and just put on some 90s R&B, man, and we're just in our world. Yeah. It's awesome. So I love songs. But Song of Songs is the greatest song. And so like we call Jesus King of Kings and Lord of Lords, right? And what does that mean? He is the King of all kings. He's the greatest. He's above all. He's the Lord of all lords. He's the greatest. He's above all. He is the Lord. This is the song. This is the greatest love song. Got me? All right. It's also a little weird, but like other love songs, it's out there. It's like, is this okay to say? Yeah, in the context of what God created, absolutely. And so I grew up in the Midwest, so I listened to my R&B like with my headphones and quietly in my room. Because I got started listening to R&B. Don't tell my mom this, who's probably watching, but like fourth grade, dude. Like I was digging it. Like fourth grade, I started listening to stuff like Jodeci and R. Kelly. Of course, like Boys to Men. What'd you say? It's terrible. Yeah, we're not even giving R. Kelly any love. I do not listen to R. Kelly anymore. Thank you for that. See, this is becoming natural. But here's the thing. I grew up in a culture, and great parents. You guys know I brag about my parents, love my parents. But I grew up in a Midwest culture, which is very modest. We don't talk about sex. We don't talk about money. Well, what are things that Satan loves to talk about? He loves to talk about sex. He loves to talk about money. He loves to He loves to corrupt the things that God created. And so if in the church we're going to be quiet about stuff, Satan's going to be very loud. He's going to let his position be known. And so this world we live in talks about a perverted form of love, talks explicitly about the physical components of love. And so, but these are not things that God's embarrassed about. He's like, I created this. I love this. And so Song of Songs or Song of Solomon highlights three components of love. So if you're taking notes, I want you to write these down, okay? I want you to write down the word physical. I want you to write down the word emotional and the word devotional. Isn't that great? I got that from the book we use when teaching through Old Testament at Heritage. I'm not that cool, okay? Just honest. But it's great. I'm like, oh yeah, we're talking about this. This is great. Physical, emotional, and devotional. If you look over to your right, another verse that I wanted to highlight in Song of Solomon is chapter 2, verse 15. It says, and keep in mind as we read this, the idea that Satan wants to corrupt the beautiful thing that God has created. And so early on in this poem is about a lover and his beloved, a husband and his wife, a bridegroom and a bride, okay? And so early in their attraction and their intense desire for each other, the poem says this in chapter 2, verse 15. It says, catch the foxes for us, the little foxes that are ruining the vineyards while our vineyards are in blossom. I got an orange tree, and orange men, they just disappear before I even get to them. You got to watch out for these critters that are coming in to rob us of the things that God has for us. So let's talk about the physical and how God has created the physical. He's not embarrassed by the idea, by sex. He's not, and I have, you know me, I have a hard time even calling sex. Mm-hmm. I call it intimacy. Mm-hmm. And it includes the emotional and the devotional. But right now, let's just talk a little bit about the physical. Yeah, what's on your heart in this moment as we think about the physical component of love? Let me look at I had a question here, but let's just talk about the difference between what the world says love is and what God made physical love to be. Do you have any thoughts right now in this moment?
Well, you might have to restate your question because I just wanted to say something first that
go for it.
It's interesting.
You get to say whatever you want to say
to be
this
up
morning.
Here with you.
Yeah.
But I just want people to know, like, I hope it's not awkward that I just sit here and like gaze at him because I'm so enamored by this person. Like, I love him so much, and he actually makes me feel safe up here. So that's why I keep my eyes kind of focused on you, and I learn from you. But the safety in our relationship when I sit here with you helps me to kind of just, let down, because this is not my natural bent. But with you, I feel safe in this space, so I can be here with you and have this conversation with you. Because we do talk a lot at home, but, in here, it's like, well, how can I do that? I don't really know what that looks like. It's our safe space. So thank you, for creating that. But now you can ask the question again, because I don't
even know what the question is. I'm just thinking... when we talk at home, like, can you vouch for me that it's not always me talking? I do talk a lot.
No, I probably talk more than you do, which sometimes I have to apologize.
Can you say it again?
Sometimes I do talk more than you do. and I have to apologize because I'm like, is there something you want to say, or did you have something for me, or
Am I a good listener?
You're a great listener.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do I call you the lioness
Yes.
at home? I do, don't I?
You
Yeah. And so we talk about letting the lion out.
Right.
We got to let the lioness out. And so this is like we're in an enclosure right now, so you're safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But these people want to see the lion. So this, they're not promising that like we'll get all that today, but like there's a lion inside of this woman, and we're just exploring opportunities when God says like this for you guys to just get to enjoy the presence of this woman. So yeah. So what is the question about? Just what are your thoughts on the idea that like God created the physical and it's beautiful? Because think about it, you helped me.
Right.
Remember, like when we got married, like I was afraid to fart in front of you, and I was afraid to like talk about bowel movements, and I was like, ashamed to be naked. Like these are things that like, and you're like, dude, what? God, so you've made me be comfortable talking about the physical because I grew up. Right. I grew up in the environment where it's like taboo. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So talk a little bit about like the difference between like the fact that God created the physical and Satan corrupts it. Yeah, well, to me, it's so simple, but so complicated at the same time. I feel like, like I would say to you when you would be uncomfortable about those things, I'm like, but God created all those things. Like God created us with the bodily functions. He created us with this body. Adam and Eve were naked in the garden before the fall. Like, nakedness is not something to be ashamed of. We have to, protect. And I understand like people have, I've always said this, people have issues around that because of things that have happened to them in this world. And that's where the perversion comes in and where Satan gets in and distorts the view of it. But that overarching is so much bigger than the simplicity of what God made it to be. And so I always look at it from that lens. It's like, well, I have to look at it from God's lens because he created it. And so it's supposed to be something that we can have a conversation about. We need to know what each other's needs are. We talked about that very early on before we needed to know those things before. And so I think that it's a disservice when people get into relationship and they haven't already had those conversations, because you need to know what I like. I need to know what you like. I need to know what you want. I need to know what your desires are. But this world makes it so much more complicated than it has to be. God said what he said, and the beauty in that when you have, because the intimacy has to be there. And that's different than just the physical intimacy. And I know you're going to get to that too, but that has to be there to be able to enter in that physical intimate space. There's so much more that comes before that so that you can enjoy in that spot, and I think we do a good job. We continue to grow in that space. But all the other aspects of what you talked about, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, all those things tie into it. But again, that's what God says. So to me, it's like it's simple, but the world is what makes it really complicated. So that's how I feel. That's what I think. Yeah. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. What I'm hearing, this is what you do. This is what I'm hearing. I don't know if you guys are hearing this, but like, man, this is really great. I love this. I hope you guys love this. But what I'm hearing is, it ain't that deep, man. Just talk about it. Mm. And right? I get it. I don't want to make light of that too, because I know that it is deep. Yes. For people who have wounds. Thank you for saying that. I understand that is a valid reason. But again, God is sovereign over that as well, because we all have stuff. We all have stuff, even if it's not tied to physical intimacy. We all have something that we're carrying, and this is meant to be a beautiful thing. And it grieves me to see the pictures or the way the representation is made in this world, taking it away from the creator. He created it, right? And so when we get away from his creation, and what he deemed it to be, like, it's already distorted. Once we move away from what he created it to be, it's already distorted.
So that makes it very hard to have that right physical attachment. That, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not that deep, so just talk about it. But it is that deep.
But you got to
And it's
talk
super,
about it.
but you got to.
You have to.
Yeah.
And then that goes back into the other things that you're going to bring up, because if you can't talk to your partner, if you don't have an understanding and you're not being honest and vulnerable and open, things we had to learn. Like, these are things, I'm not saying this because we did it, right? We had to learn these things. And so that is the key that opens the door for you to be able to have an open and honest conversation about what has happened to you, if something has happened, where you're at in that space, if you still need healing, or you need, like, there's so much, we can go on and on about it, but
that's what we're here to do, man.
Well, we keep them here all day, but
that's all right. Cliff's with the kids. We're good. If you got to go, man, you just get out of here. It's all good. Love you. Put something in that box in the bag. Today it's worth it. You got extra today. Man, thank you for highlighting, because neither one of us have had experienced abuse.
Right.
Now, we'll be transparent. Like I've been with a lot of different women, just being an idiot, lost and confused. And I still say this to her. This is all I ever wanted. This is all I was ever looking for. I was insecure. I was trying to find my identity. I was an idiot. I didn't know what I was doing. I feel terrible for the women that like came into some kind of relationship with me, because I was a nice guy. And it's like, but I was trying to find myself, and I took advantage of them, hurting them, trying to understand me. And then I came into the safety and the security. And when I use that word safety, it's like free to explore, free to have the conversation, right. Free to ask the questions, free to receive forgiveness for the past. Like, that's just a gift. That's been a gift to me. And I think about people who have been hurt, and it is that deep. And so it's kind of like when we talk about God as Father, like that's not an easy topic for a lot of people. When we're talking about the physical components of love that God created, it's like, well, if God created this, then why has this happened to me? Yeah. And that is super hard and super sad. And I don't even fully understand the hurt behind that. But what I would say and pray is that and I know there's people in this room that are like, yeah, that's me, dude. I've been hurt. I don't even want to talk. I don't even want to hear you talk about this right now. Right. If that's you, I pray for safe relationships like this, or like our therapist that we go to twice a month. Y'all know that. And sometimes our therapy sessions turn into just us forgetting about him and we just talking. Sometimes that happens too, like we're getting with you some this morning. But I pray that you have the safe, and you can find trusted and even professional, because some of it's not just like finding a friend. No, it's like, no, you need to find a professional, and there's resources out there that will pay for it for you. Right. Tap into that, because you're worth it, dude. You've been hurt. You deserve flat out, you deserve to have healing. You deserve for someone. Like we know people that are having medical care right now, right? Right. That can't afford it. It's like, because they're a human and they deserve to be worked on. Yeah, you're a human with a soul that deserves to be cared for. Right. Anyway, that was for somebody. But anything else you want to say about that? We kind of transition to the emotional. I would say this one might maybe more for the younger folks. Man, I hope y'all are getting you're welcome. And if your family is not talking to you about this, which they're probably not, because get it together, mom and dad. Like, let's go, start talking. you know, because we are Jesus followers, and if God's not afraid to talk about it, man, we better learn to talk about it. But this is a safe community where we can talk about these things.
And not to say that we do that perfect
Oh,
either.
no.
We're having those
Brooke's
conversations
like, yeah, I never heard this before,
right.
Dad.
We're having those conversations too. Like, we need to be exercising
that
with our own children. Like, you know, I come from a different background. My mom talked to me about everything, his not so much, but we talk about this. Like, we need to talk to our kids, you know, before this world gets to them. We need to be in the front of the world. We have to have these conversations with them. Like, it's very important, you know? So yeah, we talk about that too. We don't have it all figured out. Please don't get it twisted and think that that's what's being said up here, because we do not.
Yeah.
But
Brooke back there, they lying. We don't talk about that. Yes, thank you. We're working on it.
Yeah.
And you're working on it with us. So what I was going to say for the younger folks, but anybody, men or boys give the emotional to get what? The physical. Mm-hmm. Women or girls give the physical to get what? The emotional. Yeah, don't do that. Mm-hmm. Don't fall for that trap. Mm-hmm. You know? That's why I'll just leave it at that. No, I'll say it, man. That's why us as dads, our daughters, and I pray, you can tell me later, Brooke, but I pray that Brooke, I know Brooke's feeling emotional love from me, but it's not like, oh, I did it, check the box. No, we got to continue to have this relationship, so she's not going out willing to give up the physical to get something that she's being neglected of at home. Yeah. And so we got to nurture that, man. Yeah. And girls, don't you dare give up the physical so that you can get some false idea of the emotional being met. Those two go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And you do not give up the physical or the emotional until you have the devotional, until somebody's devoted to you like this. Because you'll never know that you're fully secure and safe, and you never know until that.
Amen.
That's good. This is great. Mm-hmm. This is great. All right, let's talk emotional. How are we doing our time? Maybe it's the gift of the Lord that the batteries on the clock, the batteries on the clock
what's wrong with that
went out.
clock?
Yeah. It's actually beyond, almost on time now.
It's beyond time change. It's
it's not even just the time change things. It's the batteries died. Oh. Yeah, Alan's on it. Double A's. There are double A's in my office, I think. All right. Anyway, sorry. Squirrel. Emotional transformation. Let's just say this. How have you seen emotional transformation happen? I can say in me, but you can speak for yourself as well. How have you witnessed emotional transformation as we have dove in to the intimacy of relational love? How have you seen emotional transformation in me?
Oh, the transformation's been amazing in the sense that I will use this language because this is kind of the only way I can articulate it. Like that surface, you know, when we first got married, there was like the surface layer of our relationship. That's the only way I can really put it. It didn't go below that surface, and we jive with each other. Like, we have a lot in common. We have fun. We get along. We laugh. It's great. But there was something wrong because I wasn't feeling like that connection per se, right? And I would go when we started going to therapy. It was like, but he's wonderful, and I don't really know why, but I just feel like disconnected, you know? Yeah. I would have these moments where I would, kind of go within, and when he started talking to us about that level, that surface level, and us getting deeper in our intimacy, the transformation that happened was something, it's crazy because it's like I can't really put words to it, but it was spiritual. Like the spirit, it was like it came alive, right? You came alive in your care for me. It wasn't just a box check, because that was what I would, that's what I would attach it to. I felt like you're doing this because you're my husband and you have to, like, not because you really, not necessarily even because you, not that you don't want to, you want to do those things. You're a caring person, but there was something missing in there. And that was the part that grew. It was like your heart grew to this capacity of, no, I really want to be in a connected relationship with you. So honoring the commitment that we have to each other, like I saw that shift in you. It's not just about what I do. It's really about, and the change, the real change was that was what, which is crazy with the whole thing, is that it was really you just being like blah to me, like give me everything, offer me everything you had, like completely honest, completely like knowing what's going on in your heart. It's a weird thing to have your mate and not really know what's really going on in their heart.
Come on.
You know, like you have this close connected relationship with this person. And this is something I say all the time, and you probably heard me say this the last time I was up here, but he is the picture of God's love to me, right? And so when that part was opened up for him to offer himself to me fully, he trusted me with that. Like, I don't even know why we were going through this song and dance and not really understanding. I think it's another ploy of the enemy. Like, you don't have this real connection. And so you can't really be honest about what you feel. And you say that still now, like, man, just thank you for letting me be able to say that and be honest. And I'm like, well, you're supposed to be honest with me.
Such a good.
Like, you're supposed to say those things to me. I'm not offended, and I ain't scared. I always say that too. I ain't scared. I don't really know. None don't scare me like that. So you come bring it to me. You're going to bring it to anybody, bring it to me, right? And so that was the part where it was like, it just opened up from there. I feel like you just being open about who you are, what you're feeling, what's going on in your heart. Like, give it to me. I'm here to take it. That's the picture, like what God is wanting from us, to show each other. Like, no, I am being the best person I can possibly be from who you show me, like the things you're telling me about myself, the things that I'm learning. We grow in this together. But you can't do that if you're over here like holding all your little coins over here and not really want to offer them to the person, right? I hope this makes sense. Like, I
so
have
golden.
This is how I talk to him, and I go, does it make sense to you what I'm saying? And
fiery goodness. This is better than any sermon I've ever preached. This is so good. It's so good. It's so good. And in this moment, like, there's so much I want to say, but I'm listening.
Yeah.
And one thought is like, women don't care about your private parts. What I found was, you don't care about my private parts. I mean, you do, but like, it's not like that. You care about the private parts.
Yes. That's good. Yeah.
Of my heart.
Right.
I ain't trying to sound like, but like, it just, if that helps you remember, like, man, what I started to do was learn to use heart language. And that's why the emotional component of love, like I've found, because you guys probably heard, like, sex starts where? It starts in the kitchen or at the breakfast table. Right? Yeah, it starts first thing in the morning. How are you feeling today? Hey, babe, I'm feeling very hurried. I'm feeling vulnerable because I didn't get up as early as I'd like, and I'm angry with myself that I let myself down, and I'm trying to reset, but I can't. But think about this, like, confess your sins. Like, is that like a sin? No, but what's going on in your heart? Like, if you can confess your sin, how about confess the vulnerable things that's going on in my heart and tell you? And what does James say? Confess and you will be Healed. And so I find healing regularly in conversation, and some language that we use is I become aware. What's going on? Self-awareness. I become aware and I share. And I found that when I do that, not a manipulative way, oh my gosh, that's like her putting that's like her, when I become aware and I share what's going on in my heart, that's like her touching my leg, maybe. Right, that's kind of an inside joke for us. It's an inside joke. But hey, like if you're sitting next to your wife right now, like imagine her touching your leg, just maybe, but not actually doing it. You're like, oh yeah, that sounds great. I would love that. That's what goes on in the heart of a man. Well, when us dummies share what's going on emotionally, which is a very important component of love, when I share, she's like, oh, he just touched my leg. He just touched my heart. He gave me something. And what that is like, and this is what I found. I'm trying to think of something that's very fragile and like if let's just use the microphone. Like this microphone is very fragile to me. It's a vulnerable area of my heart. Showing emotional vulnerability is scary. It's hard. So it's as if I'm taking something that's like, all right, okay, be really careful with this. Okay, I'm about to tell you something very vulnerable. Simeona, my wife, here it goes. I feel inadequate. And she's like, give me that. That's it. That's what you wanted to. You're inadequate? Give me that thing. What else you got? And it's like, wait, you don't look at me like I'm not like you don't look at me like weak. You don't look at me like I'm some scared little boy. Never. What did I say to us for the 5 of you that were here on time when we started?
Don't shame people.
What did I say that we want when we come into the confines of each other in community? And so when I would share emotional vulnerability with this one, when I do regularly now, and this is learned behavior, dude. Yeah. Like it wasn't just one counseling session. It's like, oh, is that what I have to do? Okay, I'll do it. It's like, no. This is learned relationship. Bert says, our therapist, he says, everything in this world that we experience is learned. Everything. This is learned behavior. So it wasn't just one counseling session where I was like, oh, that's what I got to do. I got to share heart language and be vulnerable with my wife. Okay, I'm going to go do that. Boom, light came on. No. It was practiced, and she kind of had to explore. But when I did and I shared something vulnerable, how's this going to go? Oh, you actually love me more? Hey, you actually respect me more? Wow. Yeah. That's really what happens. It's really what happens.
True story.
True story. Daily, regularly. Yeah. Sweet. Anything else on emotional? No. Yeah, I just want to.
Only to say though, I wasn't like. It's not like I had it all figured out in the emotional department either. There were plenty of things I had to learn as well. So I, won't get too much in the weeds with that. Yeah. But yeah, there was plenty that I had to learn. So that's the thing too. Like it's not easy. There's a lot of learning and growing that goes into it. But if you're willing to go there, which I think, we sit with people and talk with couples a lot, and find that people aren't willing to go there, and so you have to be willing to go there. I feel like the Spirit, if we're walking with the Spirit, He's constantly checking us in that space, right? Yeah. So every time we get to that place where it's a roadblock or something's happening, I think the Spirit comes in for us because we're walking with Him to be able to say like, no, this is something you need to check into right now. You need to pay attention to this. So people have to be willing to offer themselves in that way. And I think that that's a tough spot sometimes. So that was all. I just didn't want people to think like all the work you're the one who has to do, had to do all this work. There was a lot of things that I wasn't willing to let go of either because of past relationship and that kind. I had to learn how to undo a lot of mechanisms that I had too. So, but the spirit was right there, like checking me, like, nope, this is something that you got to let this go. Like you got to let this man in. He's not, he really loves you and cares. You can trust his motives and his intentions. And, there was a lot that I was still trying to cover and protect. So, not really letting you in, because it's like, well, if I give you that much, if I give you have a lot of power. And so I would tell him, don't use your powers for evil with me. I'm really not the one, but don't use your powers for evil, and I had to let some of those barriers and walls down and learn how to be, what I needed to do to work in this relationship, which again, like I said, God gave you to me to see him, right? I'm grateful and reminded of that often, that this was the picture of God's love that he needed me to see to break down a lot of those barriers. So just, wanted to say you weren't the only one that had to let some things go. Yeah.
I'm imagining people saying, yeah, that was sweet, Simi, of you to say, but we all know that dude needs a lot of work. Yeah. No, but she has, man. And it's crazy because the things that are vulnerable to you, they're not scary for me. In generally speaking.
Yeah.
And the things that are vulnerable for me, it's not scary to her. And so that's the gift of grace that we are to each other. And man, like you were so you so freely invited me in. I really want to make this connection to just how deep it is. Like, fellas, you know how excited we get about, I'm going to call it fine dining. Okay. That's some language that I use, fine dining. I'm talking about physical intimacy. You know how excited we get about that part, the bedroom? Excited? Yep. From my experience and what I've learned from you, that's how excited you are to sit down and have a latte and share emotional, relational connection. And so when I talk about the intimacy in our marriage, I can't leave that out.
Right.
It can't be separated. So it's almost like, man, we make love all the time. Because we're constantly engaged, and sometimes it manifests in the physical moment, which is a component of marital bliss that God created, his idea. But sometimes our lovemaking, our intimacy, that's why I love that word, intimacy and physical intimacy. Like we go into these, we weren't as intimate. We were very much in love. And that's why like the Song of Solomon, just to tie it back into the context, is like, it's this journey and longing for and exploring. And so we longed for each other and had this attraction and desire, but there was a ceiling or a certain, we had to break through a level of depth. That's what you were sensitive to because you were walking in the Spirit, that something's missing here. This is great, but there's more out there.
Yeah.
And there's more in there. And we got to search it and explore. And that was something that I don't use that language as much anymore, but for a couple of years, that was really I even had a hat, still got it. Like I can't get rid of the hat that says explore on it because it was a reminder to me to explore this woman's heart. And so that's part of your emotional growth, right?
Yeah.
Like she didn't know how to express herself. Me, I'm expressive. She didn't know, hey, babe, what are you feeling? I don't know. And even having, like, she was never allowed. This is a woman who, man, you're the bomb, dude. This is a woman who was raised by parents that were addicted to drugs and had a child at 17 and has been a single mom her whole life. When was she ever allowed the opportunity to even explore how she was feeling, let alone have somebody who really cared enough for her to ask, hey, how are you feeling? What's going on? and then have the freedom and the vulnerability, the security to be vulnerable, say, I don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
And then to have somebody that's focused on her. Thank you, Christina. Nobody want to talk back to us today. Either you guys are.
They're over it.
Are you guys over it? You guys need a break? We'll pick up next week? Nah. Like I said, go. Get some coffee and go. No judgment, man. Remember, I can't just walk out of church. If you got to go, go. Love you. See you next week or later this week. Anyway, what was I talking about?
Me.
Yeah, I'm talking about you. Shoot.
Not being able to, me learning how to open up.
Oh, yeah.
As well.
Yeah, not having
knowing,
somebody
right,
to explore. But I had to learn not to quit being so dang selfish. You know? My responsibility is to explore, and that was learned.
Right.
And still is learned. And ask a question and just listen. And part of the emotional growth of me too was, it's not about me.
Right.
And she would say something about how I'm just kind of feeling lonely or not heard, but I'm there for you all the time. And I'm listening. I'm gonna listen. Shut up, dude. This ain't about you. Just explore and let her be. Does that make sense? Like I had to be okay with me and just truly practice making it about you. Yeah. All right. Where are we at? Yeah, we should probably get. All right, we'll wrap it up here in a sec. So the devotional commitment. How is that expressed to you in our relationship? My devotion. And I'll just let you respond. How is the expression of devoted and committed love communicated to you? What brings you into that security?
Initially I was thinking literally like devotional. Like, so one of my things is I love to have the devotional time. So this is why I don't know. I won't say that you wouldn't want to do it, but we literally engage in these moments all the time because he knows that it's like my jam. So I always want to sit and have this devotional moment, where we connect, if it's, doing a devotional or just talking or whatever. It's how I connect. And so we do this often. And there was a time where it wasn't happening. Like we were really consistent, and then it wasn't happening. And I was like, I really want that to come back. Like, I like that. That's what I want to do. So we brought it back. And like, it's been, because we're so connected, we don't lose sight of it. Even if we don't do it for a while, it always kind of wraps back around in a very organic, natural way.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Isn't it crazy? Like it wasn't,
yeah,
right?
I would feel bad.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Right.
Man, yeah.
So, again, I think it's all spirit. I think the spirit is over all of it. And that, I feel the spirit stir, between the two of us when these things are happening. Right. But the other, if I can put like a bow on that, because everything that we talked about solidifies your devotion to me, right? Everything that we enter into and engage, our conversations, our the heart checks, the just being connected with each other, solidifies the commitment and the devotion that you have to me. Like, I'm never questioning that. Like, I'm never questioning, are you devoted to this, right? I don't think I ever have, but at the same time, it anchors it. Every time that happens, there's just another rung on the ladder to say, like, oh no, we're about this. Like, this isn't going anywhere. You are totally sold out for what we have going on.
Yeah.
You're committed to this relationship. So that entails, it's like the energizing cycle of,
shout outs to love and respect, Dr. Emerson Eggridge, his wife Sarah.
Yeah, it's the energizing cycle of love and respect that wow, you do these things, and I really know like you are committed to this relationship. Like your devotion is for me. You know, you not check the box, but you do this thing here, and like, oh man, you're committed to this. You're devoted to this. Like this is it solidifies it every time we get in that flow, that cycle. So I'm never questioning or having a I trust you, like you know, I trust what you have for me, even if sometimes even if I don't like it, I trust it. You know, so if that did I answer your question? Was that what you were asking?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, devoted moments, intentionality, right? Yes, doing literally, and it doesn't have to like we read the scripture. I mean, or I'll just be reading, or you'll be reading, and you'll be like, "Oh, can I just share?" And we're just here in each other's space with the Lord, with our Bible or devotional or a good book. And sometimes it's going through a devotional on like the Bible app, great tool. Sometimes it's going through a physical devotional book, great tool. Sometimes she's reading what she's reading, and I'm reading what I'm reading, and it's like, oh, babe, check this out.
Yeah, or the best one when I'm like, I have a question about this verse.
That's
and
the worst one.
Oh, it's the worst.
Because she always asks the questions I don't know the answer to.
I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, she asks great
Y'all
questions.
Know it's a lot of craziness in the Bible. So the scholar over here, I
want to say I want to say something too about your devotion to me. You know how like every morning, like when I see her smile in the morning, it's literally like God has sent. Like I don't want to say it's like the face of God, but it's a gift from. I say she's God's gift of grace. Physical manifestation of grace to me every morning. She smile, and I'm like, oh, we're good, and that's the experience for me. And what it is like we get in arguments, dude. I don't know if you can call them arguments, but like we get into turbulence, right? And it's like, what's going on here? And as we're trying to figure it out, I've come to learn, trust, and discover she's always self-assessing. She has never, ever, you did this. And that's exaggerated, but she's never has that posture. It's always, what have I done or what can I do better? And not in a sheepish, unauthentic, submissive way, but in a righteous, I care about this person. You're devoted to me. And so that, I have no choice but to be doing the same thing. So that's one of the ways that I experience your devotion, is that gift of grace every morning, a reminder of who you are. Because we've gotten a lot of conversations. Let me say this, and then I'll transition to shutting up and getting us out of here. We have a lot of conversations where she'll say, but that's not who I am. I can't think of an example right now, but I might be feeling some type of way. Huh? No, but for a long time, she'd have to remind me, but that's not even who I am.
It's not my character.
That's not my character. I would never think, you're making me feel bad about this. But that's not would I say that? I would never say that to you. And I would never, but she would never think that towards me.
Right. Yeah.
And if you did, that would never become a part of how you function in relationship towards me. So I know that and trust that about you. I've just learned to trust your character, man. You've shown your devotion to me.
And just one thing I want to say, Satan does a really good job of making even those little things like that so big. So we have so much good, but one little thing like that can just bring the whole thing down. And it's like, why would you even think that? That's not even who I am. That's not in my character. Think about who you're talking to. And I'm not perfect, but think about who you're talking to. I would never respond in that way, right? And I think Satan does a really good job. I used to ask this question all the time. Why is it that when the little things that get under your skin or rub you the wrong way become this huge thing in relationships, right? But all of the great little things, the nice things that are being said, the smiling faces, the can I help you, those things just kind of get like kicked to the curb,
Right,
And I've
right.
always
Yeah,
said
you
this,
do
and
say that.
my what it came down to for me is like, man, Satan is working really hard. He's working really hard to get in there and disturb what you have going on. And so you didn't talk about the little foxes. You didn't go back to the little foxes, but the little
Yeah,
foxes are
yeah,
running around
yeah,
trying to distort and destroy
yeah,
your relationship. And
yeah.
you have to be very keen and aware of those things. So I would say, even with him, I say things, things get said or whatever. And I'm like, man, really? That's the person's perception of you? That's not even in your character.
Yeah.
That's not even who you are. You would never offer that to somebody. You would never show somebody that, So I'm always trying to look at the bigger picture for what it is and not let Satan rob me to put this judgment or this thing on this person to say like, oh, we had a little hiccup, but that's really not that big of a deal because like I use this language with him all the time. You make so many deposits. When you make a withdrawal, I'm not tripping on the withdrawal. I'm
Yeah.
really not, because you're making tons of deposits all the time, right? So, yeah.
That lion, man. That lion. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, babe. Couple passages to close with and a thought. It says, on my bed, night after night, I sought him whom my soul loves. I sought him, but did not find him. I must arise now and go about the city, in the streets and in the squares. I must seek him whom my soul loves. I sought him, but did not find him. The watchmen who make the rounds in the city found me. And I said, have you seen him whom my soul loves? Scarcely I had left them when I found him whom my soul loves. I held on to him and would not let go of him until I had brought him to my mother's house and into the room of her who conceived me. The thing to remember is like, and because there's different theories, this can be read as just a beautiful poetic picture of godly love. I think it is good theology. And I think Paul would agree with me that this is like, you're supposed to see God in this. And this is the closest relationship that anyone can have. But I'm also mindful that not everyone's married. And I never want to dishonor the single people. Okay. And I never want to dishonor people who have been through brokenness and really hard stuff in marriage. Right. And it's not to say that, you can't show the world who God is in your singleness. No, absolutely. Because we are still single people that have to be devoted to the King. Right. And for me, it's hard to, and like, buy into like that. Like, I'm God's bride. Like, nah, I don't go to yeah. But we collectively have this intimate relationship with Jesus. And so my point is like, yes, I found the one my soul loves and longs for. But all of us are longing to enter into the security of this type of connected, real, tangible, physical, emotional, and devoted, committed relationship. Okay? And so my prayer and my heart is, if you are not committed to Jesus in that way, not only am I imploring you, man, your heart is seeking that. But when we go out into this world and we mess around with physically and we get emotionally connected in unhealthy relationships to people who are not even committed to us and devoted to us, we are selling ourselves short. The freedom that I have in this devoted, committed relationship helps me to understand just how awesome, wonderful, and freeing is the committed relationship that Jesus has to me, to you. I'm not coming at you like, hey, you better commit to Jesus. No, of course you should, because he is that committed to me, and he's that committed to you. So the idea of devotion is reciprocating what he's already done for you, who he is for you. Yeah. If you're not sitting there like, oh man, that sounds like a wonderful relationship, you should. This is awesome, and that's what Jesus invited us into. Every single one of us, and every married one of us, like we are invited into. And so, Song of Solomon 7:10 says, I am my beloved, and his desire is for me. He's devoted to me. How much? Well, I never want to be apart from you. So regardless if you choose me, even if you're a whack spouse, I'm committed and devoted to you, so much so that I'm willing to lay down my life. I did do that for you. Whether you choose me or not, I did it because I'm so devoted. And so we invite you to receive the devotion of Jesus and a committed relationship that he's fully committed to you. Like, that's just awesome. Yeah, it's dope, dude. Jesus, every morning, your mercies are new every morning? Yeah, man. You forgive me? Yeah. You're not ashamed or afraid to talk about No, I love you. No, love you so much. I love you so much. And that never changes. That, the heart of Jesus, seems like a heart that I want to explore. And I've only begun. All right, I'm gonna shut up. Christina, love you. Thank you for. Yeah. Hope that y'all got something out of this. So sorry we're so late. Brianne, get up here. I'm done. We're done. You're awesome. Love you. Give me some. We don't usually go this late. Yes, we do.
Real quick, I'll let you guys go out fast. I just have a couple announcements. Congregational meeting, if you're a member, please attend. It's really important that all members attend this meeting. March 15th at 7 p.m. I think that's this Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? Okay, and then if you're a non-member, though, and you're just curious what that looks like, come on, attend, see, observe, and maybe learn more about membership if you guys are interested or have questions about it. Next one's has to do with sports, just like we talked about a little bit. Now the girls are having a spring basketball tournament, and it's the weekend, March 18th and the 19th. Saturday's games are 8 to 3, and Sunday's games are 1 to 8, but there's a gap in between. But this is a great way to support the CCC sports program. Even if you come to just observe, cheer, see what these kids are doing that are outside of maybe our immediate community right here. Also, too, we're going to be having a snack bar as a fundraiser. So anyone wants to just help sell things at the snack bar, that would be huge, because it's also a good way for us to engage with the parents that come for their kids or family members. And then lastly, men's breakfast. There's another one in the series that they're doing, Cliff's leading for spiritual maturity. The title, I guess, is The Baby Stage, and it's on April 1st. And we're supposed to say there's no fooling because it's actually on April Fool's Day. So that's from 9 to 11. That's it. God bless you all. Thank you for being here today. We love you. See ya.